Hey everyone, welcome back. I hope you've had a good weekend. I hope you're having a good weekend. We're going to show you some really cool Cubase tips and tricks today. So for seasoned Cubase users, you're going to get something out of this a little bit, I suppose. But for people who are just learning Cubase and beginning Cubase, or even people who might know it quite well, there'll be a few little things in here that you can get to grips with that I think are really cool. So without further ado, let's get to it. So this is Cubase 14 Pro. And of course, the stuff I'm showing you is Cubase 4 Pro centric, so it's going to be for that version of Cubase 14 Pro. So some things, obviously, if you have an early version of Cubase, it's possible that it won't be in that version. So remember that in mind on this one. So it's going to be in 3 parts. So the first one is I've got a question to answer for one of my subscribers. Thank you for subscribing, by the way. And if you haven't, please feel free to if you find anything useful. Who wanted to know about Groove Agent SE, and I'm going to show you that right now in a second. But I'm also going to do customizations, and we're going to do a section on productivity as well. So about 10 tips in all that hopefully you'll find quite useful. Okay, so the first thing is the Groove Agent SE question. So if you don't know, I've done quite a lot on Groove Agent SE. It's my favourite VST drum sampler, beat making machine in software. I have lots of hardware that does the same thing, but Groove Agent in software is probably the closest that can do all the chopping and all that kind of stuff for me personally over the years. So yeah, I absolutely love this program, and if you want to look at my other videos, I've done a full tutorial on all the versions of it as well. So okay, right, let's do this. Okay, so the question is how do you separate your drum pads to have multiple outputs? How do you send different pads to different outputs within Groove Agent? So it is not quite so straightforward as looking around and finding information on this. So you can do it though. You actually really can do it. So Groove Agent SE, here's a full version of it here. The SE version of it here. I've got a kit already loaded in. So what you want to do is, so say for instance this kit here. So simple kit that. Now it's really simple. So for instance, if I want the kick in a separate place, or the snare in a separate place, or the hat in a separate place, you can see here, for instance, so you can see that the kick here and the snare and the hat are actually going through the same channel. You can see here, obviously it's the stereo, and that's a great thing about having everything in the bottom window. This mixer here in Cubase 14, it's a bit more expanded. You can see a lot more in here, but now I can actually see, okay, I might want to separate them things. I might want to just, for instance, separate the snare, for instance. Really easily done. If I move across here to the right, I go to this home button here, and then obviously you've got your loops, samples, your presets, all that kind of things, your file browser, really easily. But if I go across again, I can go into the VSTI menu, which literally is this. It's the same menu as this here. If I go to the Studio tab, and then I go to VST Instruments, it's the same tab, which you can see there, tucked away there. So it's been nicely sort of neatly put into the MediaBay. So everything to do with media, sound, your custom sounds, presets, handily in that right-hand side menu, as well as being able to do the metering as well. Okay, so in this side here, you can see here, I've got what I've got here. I've got Serum here, I've got Groove Agent here as well. So here I can actually then choose to have a look at the inputs or the outputs. Now, obviously, I can expand that a bit more because it's quite it's quite jammed in. So I'm going to do that, expand it a bit more. And obviously then you can actually resize the MediaBay as well, so you can see what you're doing. You can actually see the knobs. And of course, you can go up here in the Studio tab, and I think I've got it as N as a shortcut. You can choose whatever you want on here, and you can actually customize it and open up a full breakout of it. But on here is great because now I can actually say, okay, here's all my obviously input, outputs, all that kind of stuff. I can obviously open up the instrument, edit the instrument, all that kind of stuff. Simple things. But on here is really important. So now on the right hand side, you can see here, yes, I have the stereo output of Groove Agent, but watch this now. As I start to go to the left here, click, 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 you can see now all the multiple different types of channels that are being added to Groove Agent. This is really cool. So now I've got tons of channels in here. I can keep going and keep going. Obviously, you don't want to get unruly in your mix window or mix console window. Just put, as a general rule of thumb, put how many outputs you want to need. So if you're doing kick, snare, hi-hat, then just open free tabs for that, free output tabs. But anyway, that's it. That's how easy it is. Really, really good. Really, really good. But the powerful thing about that is now, for instance, I have the snare. that we've shown you before. Let me unmute that. And of course, it's not going through anything. All these channels are handily soloed and ready for me to roll because I'm obviously soloing them. So this is a whole kit. This could be a whole kit. This is all my channels that I've activated. But in here now, I just right click. So in here, I can then say output that snare, and I can do the kit mix, which is the overall kit mix, which is the stereo out. Then I can choose one of the agents, so I can do through different agents, not agencies. But I can then do auxiliary as well. So I can say auxiliary effects. So now that goes through the auxiliary effects, and obviously I've got control over the auxiliary effects as well. Obviously in here, when you're in a mixer, then you can see all your different types of auxiliary mixing and kits and stuff like that. But now, for instance, on here, I can say, okay, the snare, I might want it to just go through output 2. So kick is going through the main mix, stereo mix, but the snare is now going through 2. And then from here, then I can actually go into 2, into this channel here, and then I can, you get the idea. I can then actually start adding effects to that channel as well. So this is how you would do it and break out a whole drum kit and have it separated. So I get why people would want to do that. For certain drum kits and drums, obviously it's better to maybe have them all treated together and gelled, and you get a more coherent sound. But then for certain things, you might want to just separate the snare and have the snare coming out of the kit and then being its own separate entity, and obviously with effects on it. And of course, like I say, with different outputs as well, all of them are available. There's 32 there. And obviously with the agents, you can do auxiliary buses and all that kind of stuff. If I choose, for instance, auxiliary effects 1, you can hear it there, but then I can go to the aux, and there's the aux effect. So the aux effect, then I can put something on the aux effect, so like a distortion or something like that. And then obviously I can then really drive the distortion. Kick through there. Snare through the auxiliary bus, but then obviously then you're in the auxiliary bus, and then you can actually use the effects, but then it's in the auxiliary bus. If you really want to separate, then you have to then go in here, and then you can actually then choose to, I don't know, maybe output 6 and separate it like that. So anyway, there you go. It goes a little bit deeper than that, but in a nutshell, that's what he wanted to ask, and I hope that answered your question. Okay, so customizations. This is a really cool one. So say, for instance, now I want to, I don't know, maybe this break here in this channel. Let's have a listen to it. Okay, so this one here. So I might want it's drums. So it's a drum sample, and sometimes it's good to see things visually where they are, because obviously you've got all text, but sometimes you have really long text. I don't know, snare 1 of multi-track drum kit from September the 1st. Right, cool. But it's all going to be squashed in there, and you really sometimes can't tell which drum it might be. It might be drum A, drum B, or mix 1, mix B. This is a cool little visual tip. So here you can see here, if I actually expand this channel, see, you can see this little box here, I can double click on this and I get to see track pictures. So within track pictures, I can actually then choose, okay, it's a drum. There's a drum. Right, really cool. Goes a little bit deeper than that. Actually, I can choose user. So I have my home line, my studio, my logo. It's good for mastering sometimes and mixing, and I go, okay, that's the multi-track mix. Okay, that's my mix. Maybe this is the sampler mix. That's my record label, Jungle Rollers. That's my. It might be for the album, so I can say, okay, it's the album mix tracks. So it's really good to be able to actually then visually see in a whole mix. Maybe you've got a really busy mix, and maybe even for people that do really good, like to do good housekeeping in their tracks. I can see where everything is, so I can say, okay, they're the drum tracks. For instance, here I can say, okay, picture of a drum, and then all the different colored drums. Now, I said different colors because you can do that. So I can then go to preview mode, and in preview mode, I can then rotate the drum. I can then choose to change the intensity, which is the color. I can actually zoom in on the icon as well. So you get to customize it quite a bit as well. And obviously, there's millions of cool logos. So it's not a gimmick. It's actually really good for housekeeping and organization and visual referencing for your tracks as well. So obviously, it'd be great in a project to be able to maybe have all the types of instruments, like guitar, all that kind of stuff in here that you might want to visually see. If I take preview mode off, then we get to see all the icons, but you can choose any icon as well, like I've shown you as JPEG. If it's an effects track, that's a good one. So in effects track, I can say preview, and then I can maybe just maybe make it a bit bigger, so I know they're right. This is an effects track. What color will it be? It's going to be that color. It actually colors this as well, the track. So I go, okay, right, there's the effects bus, there's the effects tracks. Really, really handy tool, that. And of course, because I'm a DJ, I would also put stuff like this in here, a turntable, obviously. And would make it maybe, pink. or we make it green, or we'd make it, I don't know, that looks like a quite cool blue colour. And turn the intensity up, or you can turn it back down, maybe do something like that. These decks here next to me. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm going it on one here, but that's a cool one. Yeah, so visually in the whole multi-track mix, you save that as a project, and then you load it up, you go, right, where's the effects track? Okay, right, where's that scratching that I did? Where's the live mix track? Oh, right, there it is, and so on and so on. Okay, so yeah, that's I wanted to show you some quick productivity. The next one in the productivity is this one. So if you go to edit and I go to key commands, so this, a lot of people don't know about this one. If you want to customize anything in Cubase, you actually can. Anything at all. So you just choose what you want to. So for instance, if I type mixer in here, I get to see mixer. I open up the mixer tab, and all this is customizable by key commands. And we also have macros as well, which we can look at another video. My friend Dom Segelis has got an amazing video on macros and stuff, so you can check that one out as well. But if you want to, for instance, I have M for mixer on here, and I have E for edit window. You literally just type which one of you want. You choose the thing. You choose the item you want to customize, and then you type your key command in, and then you can assign it. Really, really cool. And then obviously when you say assign, you can see what's already assigned and how you want to customize it. And then you can actually save that as a preset as well. So I have my own here. I mean, I've got presets going in here from back to 2009, which is they've still carried across, which has been really helpful. So yeah, so I wanted to show you that, but going a little bit deeper, if I reopen that window again, just to keep things tidy, back to key commands, and then you can save them as a preset. So what I did want to show you as a preset, for instance, is here on the right. Now I have key commands going in back here from back to 2009, but that's not what I wanted to show you. What I did want to show you is the fact that we have in here, we have Logic key commands. This is default, by the way. We have Logic Pro, we have Pro Tools, we have Sonar, other doors and stuff. So we can actually then, if you're coming from another door and you might want to use it for Cubase for whatever reason, mixing or maybe mastering or production or songwriting and beat making, and then you have other doors and you have key commands, because we do with our muscle memory mapped into you. For instance, if you're coming from Pro Tools, I can say Pro Tools key commands, and now you can see here how they've been assigned in Cubase for the Pro Tools key commands, but also then tweak them and add in your own. So you're not just totally left on an island coming from another door, then trying to remap and relearn everything and try to find warping and all that kind of stuff. It's really great to actually have to hear as default presets. The basic presets for audio editing and in the key editor window and stuff like that in the project window, but it's a good starting point. But if you are coming from another door and it's not on here, it's not the end of the world, because you can actually customize absolutely everything. Okay, so Profile Manager, this is a really good one. So for customizations and moving across between machines and stuff, it's really, really helpful. You can save things as a .s, I think it's a .srf file or a .srt file, one of the two, and that file can be used across PC and Mac. You can activate this profile on another machine, so I can have a MacBook and take these shortcuts and my layout and everything that I've done and move it across to the Mac, and then import this profile and just have Cubase how I use it. So for instance, if I go to a show and maybe I'm working with Dom, for instance, and he has his computer set up a certain way, and then I come on it, he'll have his own shortcuts, and then I've got to try and work out how's it going to work with my shortcuts. I can then import my profile, activate that profile, and now I've got my own custom setup on how it works at home or how it works in the studio. And the great thing about it is it saves a lot of things in your profile. So for instance, you have your preferences that it can save your toolbar layout and stuff like that, your global workspaces and window workspaces, track control settings, your presets for your input and output buses, your quantized presets, colors, obviously your key commands, your crossfade presets, all your presets, everything in here, how you work and how you see it here like this. I can load that into another profile with Cubase 14. I'm not sure if it goes back to 13 and 12 and other versions, but 14 definitely, and 13's version of Profile Manager and 12's version of Profile Manager and so on. But it's great to be able to, for instance, if you're doing a clean install, so it's not as like pulling teeth as it was now, actually creating from scratch. So if I do a new clean install from Windows or whatever, or OS X or whatever, it's like, okay, I can't be bothered doing all that again, literally loading all my presets, colors, getting my bar ranges, how things are working, the layout, the zooms, all that kind of zoom presets, crossfade presets, track presets, globals. really easy. Even my preferences, how I have it in my preferences, what you have ticked and whatever you don't ticked, how you have things working. It's really easy. If I have that file, I think it's a .srf file, I can just go here and I can just say import, and then from here I can import it, and that's it. Really, really simple. That my profile comes straight into Cubase. I activate it. I then have to probably close it down, Cubase, and reopen Cubase, and there it is. And then I can have my presets all back in that, how I like to work. And then this is across PC and Mac. Okay, here we go. Moving along swiftly. Another cool one here is if I go to File and I go to Import and I go to Tracks and Projects. This came in a few versions ago, but this is amazing. For instance, for grabbing stuff from your old tracks and remixing and different parts, and you might have an old project there, you don't want to load it all in, you might have a bass line that you like using, you might have a drum kit that you're using, you know, a nice starting point for a groove. You might use the layouts of, you know, certain MIDI riffs. It's easily done on here now. So I might say, okay, let's pick a track here. I'm gonna say, what can I pick? One, Bigger Heads. Okay, so Bigger Heads, I can say, okay, open, and I open this track here, and then when we open it, really simple, and I get to see this. So this is really, really good. So I mean, there's loads in here. This has been expanded a lot over the Cubase versions, but this was still one of my, and still is one of my favorite features in the whole of Cubase. So I can get to see what type of track it is, which is amazing. For instance, I can get to see the marker tracks, what breaks it is it a MIDI channel, is it an audio channel? I then can choose to have options, you know, where it goes, the destination. I can also choose to show events and parts. Do I want it to replace certain parts or events? I can choose the range of where it comes in. I might just want to just, for instance, I might have a drop or a breakdown. I can just literally replace breakdowns if I have them in the same sort of layout way. I can do that. Or I might just have a breakdown and say, okay, I like that drum roll that came in before it dropped on the breakdown. I can't bother getting MIDI and drawing it in, and I don't even know how I did it. You just pick it out from here. I'll just pick my Groove Agent drum pattern, put the range in of where I want it to be, and then I can choose a position for it. So I can choose where it goes, up or down, below whatever track. I can choose to copy it to the active project. I can choose an absolute or relative position or cursor position, so I can literally then choose the cursor. Right, I want it there. So I can actually, it's not just random, you can actually put it in and really zoom in where you want it to be on the project. But if it's like a second version, like maybe like a radio mix or a dub mix, and the things are in the same place, then I can say, give me the absolute position or the relative position, and I can actually choose to have it maybe as it was, just replacing the drums. So the drums in version 1 were okay, but the new ones are better. I can swap them around, import them in, and then replace them. So yeah, really, really good one, that. Really simple, but it's a lifesaver. And you might have some old projects that might be a bit, I don't know, what's the word, erratic in the way they load. You might have some old plugins that are crashing, or, you know, there could be anything going wrong with them, and you're like, it can be a bit chorus if you're just loading projects in and things are missing, and it's like, oh, you know what, and all you want is like the bass line, or you might want the drums and the bass line. Literally, you just go in here, you just click what you want. I want the drums, I want the bass, there's it go, and that's it. Load them in any position, where I want them to be, any particular range I want, and it brings in the channel settings, inspector settings, channel strip settings. Even some of the automation can come in as well. How if you automated a riff line, it can be in there. So yeah, really, really cool feature. I wanted to show you. If you don't know about it, please use this, because it's going to be for productivity. If you're making tracks as a producer, it's going to save you a lot of time. Okay, this is a really simple one. So I've got many questions throughout the last few years about people when they get into Cubase and they don't have any sound. And I know it sounds really simple, but it's not. It can actually happen. Like, this is like, okay, why haven't I got any sound? You know, everything's wired in. My USB interface or my Firewire interface is wired in. The first place you ever want to go to is your Outputs tab, and it's there. Obviously, it's here as well, where it's always been in Audio Connections. Open it up. It's always been there, but now handily it's here as well. So you can actually come into here, audio outputs and audio inputs. If you never get a sound out of Cubase and something was wired in as it was before, and for whatever reason you got no sound and things are is an issue, always go into your outputs, because sometimes they can get reassigned if you plug anything in. Like, you could plug in a webcam, you could plug in a HDMI, and it can override, especially in Windows I'm talking about here, but it happens on the Mac as well. It can be override with different settings. You plug a microphone in with a USB mic, for instance, and then the audio gets overridden, and you don't realise straight away where the sound might not be coming from and where it and where it might have come from before. So really easy. On here you can see here I've got 4 outputs, and that's fine. I can go in here, that's great, but I have all presets for everything. So I have all my studio interfaces, the Weather audio stuff, Axino stuff. I have my old Cubase bus Firewire interfaces in here as well. Really handy. So if you're happy with how things are sounding, then always save it as a preset. Here you can save it as a preset, store it as a preset, and then if you ever get any sound issues, you can always go back to your preset. So always create presets for different types of interfaces, and then you never have that issue. But I always find that a lot of people have asked questions like, I can't get any sound, why can't I get any sound, what's going on, everything's plugged in. Always come here, because sometimes it'll be either not connected or it might be picking it off from another interface, and so it's really easy. But for future reference, then always, as you add in interfaces or setups, or you're changing your studio or your sound cards, always save the presets of how they are. So for instance, if you have maybe ADAT, I have an ADAT in the studio here, so it's like 16 in and 16 out, and 8 in and 8 out, multiple types of configurations, and I just keep saving them different configurations. So whenever I turn on a different interface, and it's like, okay, there's 0 sound here, but levels are going, what's going on? Then I go, right, okay, I come in here to the outputs, and then I go to the preset of the interface, what I'm using. So really simple one, but you'd be surprised, like, that can throw you up sometimes when you're just not in the right mindset. Okay, so moving swiftly on, performance meter. So this came in Cubase 14 Pro. So obviously we had the ASIO meter, and that's great. We had it in before. This has always been in here, and it's been expanded on slightly and touched upon over the years, should I say. But the good thing about this one is, let me just right click and put it always on top, which then means I can always have it in the background and it won't just disappear. So you can see here, this is quite a loaded project, but it's handling it quite well. So I'd also say Cubase 14 is really well optimized as well. This is an i9 computer, and it's about 6 years old, maybe even 7. And it's holding things quite well. It's quite stacked with a lot of plugins and stuff and audio. So if I play this project, you can see what I mean. So let's have a look at it. Let's go in here. So you can see straight away there, look, you can see here the 2 different types of load meters. So there's a real-time load and there's an ASIO guard load. So ASIO guard is then set by how you want it, medium, large, all that kind of stuff. But the cool thing about this one is we can actually get a snapshot of the whole track. So I can zoom in and out here, and eventually I can then see where things will be overloaded in the track. So the great thing about this is when there's a dropout occurs, because it can happen not just from plugins, it can happen from your firewall, programs, all that kind of stuff, things in the processes in the background, you might get a ping and stuff like that, and it can, you get a little spike and stuff. But in Cubase's realm, when you get an issue like that, a dropout, it shows you in Cubase what track it would be and where it's coming from, and suggested operations for that track as well. So you'll know for certain that it is, okay, right, it is a plugin in Cubase. You know that definitely something drops out there. You'll know that. It's going to tell you. So it's like a sort of an inspector for that. So when there's a dropout, you'll see here on the left-hand side which track it is, where it is, and then suggested operations, which can be stacked. So the suggested operations and fixes for that could be changing the ASIO buffer, changing the ASIO guard level, freezing the track, or a combination of those. And of course, they will actually really help because, for instance, freezing a track, freeze resources, you can render the track temporarily, and then you can actually have, maybe if you've got loads of reverbs on there, you can just freeze that and still keep the reverb and keep the reverb tail. And then here you can then say, okay, it froze it, right, and then play the track again, right, issue resolved, and then maybe render that. So normally you'd be thinking, okay, which one is it? And you might freeze 10 tracks, and it's just unnecessarily so. But on here you can see if I'm playing this track, and I open up the mixer. So if I go here to studio and open the full mix console, so it's quite heavily stacked here. You can see all the plugins that are on here, apart from the channels there. So loads of plugins, loads of audio, and actually not only just loads of plugins, but quite heavy plugins, but it's still holding it quite well, which is great. So I would also say it's pretty well optimized, Cubase 14 Pro as well. But any issues now I can see, because I've got some old projects that are quite heavy, like, because I was just experimenting and stuff, sound design type stuff, and they're really loaded up and stuff. So anything that comes in there issue-wise, I can see where it is, and see the fixes, then fix it, and then maybe resave it, and then I've got a whole new fresh project there that's not going to give me any issues later down the line. And then of course I have import tracks and projects as well if I want to maybe merge two projects together, who knows. But yeah, this is a really cool one. I wanted to show you the audio performance meter, or should I say the advanced and enhanced audio performance meter. Okay, so we're coming towards the end now, and we're going to look at this. So it's MediaBay, loops and samples. I'm going to come to MediaBay and I'm going to go 175. So 175, I quite like that. So it's a nice little riff here. So this is a cool one. So from here I can say, okay, here's the loop. And I might want to range a certain section of it. I might only like a piece of it. I don't want to use the whole loop. So now, instead of just dropping it in the project window and chopping it and all that kind of stuff, and then top and tailing it or using the audio editor, I can actually come in here to the handles, and then I can actually just... And I can actually just do that. I can actually just range using the handles here, and then I can choose a section which I might want. I might want this little piece here. Maybe take it in a bit more, something like that. Something like that, really simple. And then I can just drag it into the project window. And then obviously, of course, if I zoom, you can see and then of course, if I zoom, you can see it there, what I've taken in there. FC07, there it is, there's the audio file. Really simple, so that's a great one. So, yep, have a look in your files. If you like something, it could be your own library as well, because it's MediaBay. And then you can literally just use the handles to arrange and choose a range where you might want to have a sample, for instance. I might want to choose on the same sample, I might want to choose this little section here. And then I can maybe start to build up different riff parts of a riff and make my own custom loop. I can keep going here along the range, and I can keep going here and keep adding it and keep dragging it into the project window. So that's really good. So a lot of times you have long samples and you want to take out certain sections. I don't know, maybe you want to rip the snare out of it. And then just take the snare and then maybe discard the rest of the loop. This is a quick way of doing it. And of course, then once you have it in the Cubase, in the audio realm, you actually have access to more of the sample here. And then I can actually then choose to, for instance, put my scissors on, and then I can choose to snap it by bar beat and quantize and so on and so on and so on. So that's really, really handy, that one. So I wanted to show you that edit in the MediaBay if you did or did not know that one. Okay, so moving across finally, this is an in-depth one. So a couple of versions of Cubase versions ago, we had this particular window enhanced, so the audio mixdown window. This is really good. So a lot of people want to know about how to do stems and how do we do stem mixes and how do I bust stems. I've had this question recently as well. So obviously in the Pro version of Cubase, I have absolutely every option available here as far as audio mixdown and stems and capabilities and stuff. So your mileage might vary on artist versions and certainly on the Elements versions as far as what you're exporting and what you can export. Just so you know for future reference, maybe check the Steinberg site for that. But on the Pro version, you've got access to do single, multi-track stems, all that kind of stuff as well, which I'm going to show you. So of course, single was always in there, and we can choose to maybe do a stereo track and then maybe do just the Amen track and all that kind of stuff separately. But then with the multiple, I then can get to choose to have all these separated as different stems. So for instance, I can have just the effects, I can have the Amen, I can have the stereo as well with the full master track, and all the other instrument tracks as well. And all the other instrument tracks as well, sorry. So that's handy, but it's been enhanced even more. So now with this one, not only can we do separate channels and do stems, we can do single master or single master with all the stem groups as well. But on here, we actually have here as well in the effects section, this is great. So we can do it dry, and we can do it wet, and we can do it with effects. So dry obviously is disabled, so it gives you just all the stems as they are. Plus group is CSP and then CSPM, so it's like the channel strip included with the channel strip effects. And then you can choose to actually have all your buses wet or dry. This is really, really handy. So you might want to just do a dry bus stem mix, have the groups, but no effects on the no channel strip stuff. Or you might want to have them all fully processed, all wet as they are. And then someone can maybe import that in another door if you're collaborating and stuff like that. So this option is really enhanced for collaborating and maybe moving things across different types of programs, different types of doors, or just literally between clients if you're mastering, for instance. So it's really, really good. Under this window here, we have the after export window. So Obviously, it depends on what you've got installed here as far as Steinberg programs are concerned. But if you have Wavelab, for instance, installed, you can actually open it directly in Wavelab Pro. You know, if we can go into other programs like SoundCloud, for instance, and stuff like that, and we can also import it to Pool and create a new audio track. So I'm going to show this in a future video, but this is some really cool things we're going to show you about actually working with audio and resampling and stuff like that. So, but it's all in this window here, so we can actually choose to then, you know, import things directly back into the project, back into the Pool. You're not leaving this window. Really, really handy. But what the new option is from the last version of Cubase is this, the job queues. This is really, really handy. So for instance, I can then say, okay, give me all these channels, and maybe just we'll leave the FX bus out and have these separated ones, and then maybe I want them dry, for instance, just want them all dry. I can then choose to add that to a queue, and that queue then goes to a dedicated project folder in Cubase, and it even shows me that they came in dry, what file format they are, what sample rate they are, the full naming, the location file path. I can then choose to have all them added to a queue, start the queue export, they go straight into a dedicated folder, and that's so handy. Like, you're not looking around for certain, what did I just bounce, what did I render, where's the bus is. It goes to a directly dedicated job queue folder, named and everything ready for you. And of course, with the effects or without effects, handily shows you here in the job queue. You get a progress meter, and then you can update the job, and you can delete the job if you want to, and then start again. So that's really, really handy. So what also is capable of this, which I do a lot here, is, for instance, on this top part of the window here, you can actually see presets. So we can actually have the path of where things are going, which has obviously always been there, but here we can see the project name and the project path, auto update it as well. It's absolutely fine. But what I use a lot here is, if you look here, you can see here the naming scheme. So you can actually change the naming scheme of things as well, how things are named. You can change how things are named within your exports, what they say, what it says, how many channels it was, who did it, all that kind of stuff. So the metadata you can add in here as well, which is really, really handy. If you like to save in a certain type of format, this is really good. So I have a Sapo preset. So for instance, I work in WAV 44 124-bit most of the time. But for instance, I might want to work in, let's choose maybe FLAC, for instance. There we go, FLAC, so lossless codec. And then I can choose a compression type. So I can say, okay, give me a compression type of 1 or maybe 7 or something like that. And I might work with that maybe in, it's lossless, so okay, so 32-bit, maybe I might want to go 16-bit, for instance, but also have a certain type of compression rate. I can then choose to save that as a preset. I go to save preset, and now I have my instant FLAC recording preset. It can be for anything. The use case scenario could be anything. You might be doing MP3s, you might want to be a certain compression rate, you might be doing scoring high bit rate, you might want, you know, the highest bit rate that you might want here. So you might want to maybe, for instance, do 192, and you might want 192 lossless, or you might want 192 AIFF, for instance, or you might be doing MP3s 320s. It doesn't matter. So if I go to MP3 320, I can choose high quality mode and then insert the metadata for that as well. Save that as a preset. MP3 resamples, or MP3s for DJing, or just MP3s for easy listening, whatever. If you play MP3s, I collect MP3s a lot because they save a lot of space on the computer. Obviously WAVs are the ultimate, but if I'm doing just like ideas and rough bounces of tracks, and even if I have stuff to play out, I'll keep it as MP3 320. But you know, everyone's different, and just yeah, it works really well. Obviously my masters will be in WAV, and I'll accept them in WAV, but it just makes it really compatible for stuff like that. If I'm remastering old stuff and I want it as an MP3, or I'm sampling from vinyl and stuff like that, I might just do a WAV, and then I'll have all my WAV files and put them on a separate drive. And now I want to put on the main desktop, I want it to be MP3s to save space on this internal drive. Then I go to here, my MP3 layer 1, for my preset, and then I can choose my 320, because that's probably the decent rate. It's nice rate to work with on an MP3. And then I can choose interleave, stereo, left and right, split channels, all that kind of stuff. And then I can just bounce that, add it to a queue. This is my thing for remasters from vinyl. Really, really simple. So yeah, so there you go. I like the project window. It's much handily now to work within. And of course, you've got here on the left as well, you've got the ability to do locator ranges, cycle markers, and then if you have an arranger track to do the arranger range. But it's a really powerful feature, I think, as well. It's got a lot in there for if you're a big producer, like I'm a big producer. If you're a busy producer and you have lots of projects going on, or an engineer or a songwriter, you have lots of projects, this is a great way of maybe doing a quick bounce off an audio and then a quick one of the MP3, and then literally have your presets, flick between them, right, saving it as a WAV, right, flick to MP3, maybe flick to FLAC, lossless audio codec, and stuff like that. So all within an instant. You're not having to keep resetting the settings and then exporting. You can just do preset, job queue, preset, job queue. So yeah, really, really handy. And that's it, and I hope that works really well. If you want to see more stuff like this in Cubase, tips and tricks and hints and stuff, I can give you millions of these, so let me know. Some future videos that I've got coming, yes, I'm going to bring out samplers, and yes, we're going to be doing track breakdowns, just to let everyone know. If you want to see anything else, any type of videos, let me know in the bottom, in the comments, let me know below, and I will get them done. So yeah, plenty of cool videos coming this year, and we're going to bring a lot of hardware stuff as well, drum machines, all that kind of stuff. So thanks to everyone who's been supporting, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. Please keep doing it. Apparently it helps the algorithm. I've only been doing this for a year, but from what I know, it does help the algorithm for you to seek out other videos and then seek out me and stuff like that. So yeah, it's passing on the knowledge. That's all I'm doing, just passing on the knowledge. So there's plenty more stuff, cool stuff to come. I'll be seeing you soon, and yeah, if you want to see a video in particular, let me know, and I will see you next time. Peace.